Welcome to episode 6 of Paranormal Unwrapped with Krista Risa and Jack Roth. Krista is a channel for the Orion Council, teacher, and artist. Jack is an investigative journalist, author, and award-winning filmmaker. In this segment, we're learning the meaning of vibration and frequency and how they relate to connecting with other people. Hello, Jack. Long time no see.
Hey, Krista. How are you today?
Oh, great. It's been 4 days. I've missed talking about these topics.
We picked a doozy for today, though, too. There's a lot to this. This could be like different parts of this, probably go for 12 episodes.
Oh, yeah. Especially with the idea of soul family and finding our tribe with our vibes. So what do you think that is? I'm going to tell everyone what it is. You know me, but what do you think that actually means when someone says the vibes in the room or the vibes of that?
Yeah, like there's a scientific definition of vibration and there's a scientific definition of frequency. And when you put the words together, there's a vibrational frequency. Everyone has a vibrational frequency. And one of the things I didn't know is that, that there's a law of attraction, right? So people talk about law of attraction, and that's a universal law, right? And it states that like attracts like. So, and the way they describe it is if you have a high, use the word high, oscillating vibrational frequency, attracts more high frequency, or what you might think is perceived as a positive frequency. A lower vibrational frequency would be more of a negative frequency. So, but in our daily lives, how do we hear things like, oh, I dig your vibe. We're on the same frequency. We have all these things, jargons we use, but what does it really mean? But there's really something to that. And, I think the more people, I've started to do a lot of research on soul groups, soulmates, soul journeys, all this idea of soul connections, soulful connections. And it seems to be a thing where that's part of what makes people attracted to other people. And it's not just physical attraction. It could be mental attraction, physical attraction, soulful on a soul level attraction. And it's a big deal. And we'll talk about this in a bit, but it applies to the idea of UFOs and ghosts and what we can see and what we can't see. But what's your definition?
The first thing that comes to mind from what you said is taking action, because when we're getting things like psychic readings and trying to trust our vibes about what we're getting from someone, is to create a vibration in physics. Action is required as well. You can generate vibration through an action. So if I string a G note on the guitar, if I play that note on the piano, what happens is the guitar string will start to vibrate at the same time. So that's the like attracts like thing. And that's an oscillation, but it's within an equilibrium. So when people are having feelings about someone, we're really talking about the magnetic body, which is a whole other conversation. But when you have a magnet, you have the positive pole and the negative pole, so that the equilibrium is the magnet, and the oscillation between those two is a vibration. So maybe that is why people say they feel good vibes or bad vibes. And but when it comes to frequency is a reoccurring phenomenon, like a pulse. So if you have that movie, remember that movie in X-Men with that guy Quicksilver who he went into the Pentagon and it was like time was frozen, and then he rearranged all the bad guys and like make them punch themselves in the face because he was faster than them. So I always think of that, like he was at such a high frequency,
right? So, and his vibration was so high, right? Like I've talked to people who say, okay, and this applies to people, UFOs, literally the things that people see in the sky, ETs, the beings that are associated with these craft, and also ghosts, like in hauntings, like and scientists, people who are trying to find the equipment to measure these things are looking at vibrational frequency. And specifically, if something is existing at a higher vibrational frequency than we are, remember, we're 3D world, we're fairly dense world we live in. But if something is higher vibrational frequency, can we even see it? So let's say, for example, a ghost or whatever realm, interdimensional, like whatever happens to our spirit, and we shed these bodies and we're no longer in this dense 3D body. Now all of a sudden we're a lot lighter, right? And our vibrational frequency is a lot higher and faster, right? So can our eyes, human eyes, actually see that? And a lot of people believe, a lot of researchers believe that that's why we really can't see ghosts, or we only see ghosts every so often. And the same applies to UFOs and ETs. So there is this correlation. There's this correlation with that, and people are interested in that. But there's an even more important correlation that applies to people on an everyday basis. And that's the application of, what does this mean to you as a human being, the way you interact and with other human beings, who you like to hang out with, who you fall in love with, who your soul group is, who do you feel like your soulmates are. And that apparently is all tied into vibrational frequency.
Did you experience communicating, or did you ever find yourself, I have to put you on the spot a little bit, in your past with the shows on, was it ghost hunting shows? Is that what you would call it? Did you ever find yourself kind of talking to, like, maybe in your mind, to the ghosts as if they were real people? Like, did you kind of feel yourself being respectful, like you would go into somebody's house and because you told me that you're kind of the one who the phenomenon would kind of happen around. You're like, why are these? Did the machinery kind of go off around you or something like that? Because my guess is you were being respectful and accepting of that, and so you were having a response.
Right.
So is that high frequency, to be respectful in someone else's home? Will you have contact with extraterrestrials if you welcome them, versus shoot them down in the sky?
That's a great question. No, it's a cool question, because if you think about it, if we connect on this world as human beings, wouldn't it make sense that even on a spiritual level, that our frequencies would connect with others on that level as well? So if four investigators walk into a haunted house, and this happens all the time, you've heard about this, you've seen it on all the shows, Ghost Adventures. Sometimes Zach Baggins is the one who gets, there's an energy all over him, and sometimes it's on the other guy, and sometimes it's on the tech guy, depending on where they are and what spirits they're dealing with, right? And again, you have that positive, negative. I've been to places where there's very positive. I tend to be very positive when I go into a haunted location. And what winds up happening is I draw the positive energy out. So I never have problems, thank God, knock on wood. I've never had a problem with, negative, bad energies, dark energies. It's usually the kids, this little, boy that, and all of a sudden I'm feeling his hand on my, I feel my hand go numb and tingly, and the psychics pick up on that, right? So, that little boy is attracted to you because you have it's a high energy. But I also have been there with some pretty rotten people that they're just a little darker. I mean, you can even have friends, they're a little dark, they have a little bit of a darkness to them. And you go into a place and all of a sudden those dark energies are all over them. So like attracts like, right?
Wow.
That's the same. It's that universal law,
Oh my gosh.
But when you think about it though, Krista, think about all the people you've ever known in your life, and why you like hanging out with someone and maybe not so much someone else, where you just meet someone and you feel connected. You just feel connected. You feel like, I can hang out with this dude. I can hang out with this girl because I just feel good around them.
Yeah.
And then there are other people you're like, yeah, I don't know. And it's different for everyone, right? So there is something to this, and without getting into the major science of it, which would again, we can have someone on and interview them for 2 hours. There you go. We can do it on one of our long form interview shows. We'll get someone to talk about that. But I think that's what's important here for people to understand, just for us to talk about this quickly, is that it is a thing. It's a real thing, and that people should be aware of it, right?
Yeah, my students from the Ascension 101 online course may recall the Terence McKenna ditty where we talked about their time wave computer, and in Orion Council channeling from 2016 they talked about wave D. They said it in a British accent like waved, but it sounded like there's because it was incorrect grammar. So I looked up what the channel message was, and wave D is a quantum computer. So what they've been developing are, for example, measuring time wave density. And been in a life-threatening situation, you remember it, or had a dream like that, you may recall that time seemed to really slow down, like you're frozen in time, like a near-death experience in a car crash. Someone gets lifted out the thing, they see everything below them in slow motion, and they're like, what's happening here? So while I'm not 100% sure what is going on, I do know that the spike in the graph happened when there was a major horrific event, like a war would cause a spike in the thingy. So when we talk about things like vibes and tribes, yeah, I think it's a more for people who are benevolent and positive, it's a more sophisticated system for us forming what the Pleiadians told me were these cluster groups. And that's why I wanted to talk about vibration, because it's within a system. Barbara Brennan explains that higher energy always seeks lower. So in a family dynamic, for instance, someone's not taking care of their own nonsense, it can manifest as a sort of energy sucking or like an energy drainage. So when you went into a haunted house, did you ever feel cold spots, or like that's where they did that satanic ritual over there, like don't go in that room or something? Because there's always the spot with the object that's connected to the ghost activity, right?
Right.
Yeah, like some old doll or some statue.
Yeah, without question. Yeah, there's an energy, residual kind of energy associated with a particular area or an object, and then you feel the cold spots. Now there's an electromagnetic element apparently also to ghosts, so it affects electrical. If you have equipment, your batteries will drain right away, and there's other elements to that. But what I wanted to ask you is, because so when you channel the Orion Council, you've had contact with these beings. Would you say they're higher vibrational beings?
Oh yeah, my electronics is getting out of control. And then they said that they predicted some of the stuff that they said 3 years ago has been happening now, because I'm transcribing it for the next book, the material. And I would say it's higher vibrational because my ego does not willingly read the Orion Council channelings. I believe it or not, guys, I didn't watch my own videos. Like I wouldn't sit there because my ego was like, no, heck no. Why? Because I had to I felt like I was lifting weights. It was like a gym workout where you have what's it called? Bench press? Mm-hmm. It literally feels like a bench press every time I go into the text. And it's like a threshold that you step through. So this has me thinking about dimensional theories, and that's why I'm so interested.
Well, I would be interested. So you have like the Pleiadians and the Orions and the Arcturians who have been around longer than us, right? They're more, you would say, evolved is the word we would use. But it also seems to me that they function in a higher vibrational frequency, which would mean that somewhere in your brain, you're able to connect to that where other people are not. So I would think you would have to be on a fairly high level of vibrational frequency just to be able to communicate with them. Am I wrong, or is it we just don't know? I mean, yet anyway, right? Like, how does that
Maybe
work?
we'll leave up to the viewers to decide. Comment below if you think I'm high vibe. Just really don't.
Yeah, there you go.
Have a
Right.
it's Finnish Independence Day today, and Finnish people are humble and down to earth. Like you're never supposed to toot
Yeah.
your own horn.
Right.
It's just
Well,
not
no,
allowed.
trust. I wasn't tooting your horn. Basically, what I was doing is, no, I'm just kidding. I was tooting, no, because it's really cool that some people like you can do this. But I guess what I would really like to know, and we have friends who channel other beings, right? Vivian with Arcturians, and you have a ton of people, But that's the question I always ask: are they functioning at a higher vibrational frequency, and what does that mean? Because I hear it, like you hear, oh, they're at a higher vibrational frequency because they're in the ninth dimension. They live in a higher dimensional reality than we do. Okay, I don't really know what that means. So I'm trying to figure out, well, what does that mean from a tangible standpoint? Can I measure that? Is that measurable? I'm sure maybe it is, but like, so is that why we don't necessarily see the Orions hanging out in a park down the street? You know what I mean? Like, it's just they're higher. They're hanging out somewhere else,
Right.
not only on another planet, but also
they're not in the second dimension. They're not in the first dimension. So the only other dimensions that are permissible is, because I don't see them here in this dimension. Other psychics can see them. So okay, what else? What other dimension are they in? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Another universe. What's going on? And so looking into the astral plane, which is in my latest online course, Spiritual Planes and Dimensions, I studied what that is. And the astral plane is made up of 7 different levels. The lowest levels, this is why we all need to know this, is like the bad guys supposedly go to the lower parts of the astral, and it's not like Earth. This is a heaven compared to those lower astral kingdoms that they go to. And the good guys basically go with like fairies. Your Aunt May, Spider-Man's Aunt May, was probably in the highest level of the astral. They're dressed in.
That's a great example. You didn't say Mother Teresa. It's like Spider-Man's Aunt May is definitely up there. Okay, forget about Gandhi. Aunt May. Okay, that's awesome. I love it. But that makes sense. But so these lower levels could be conceived as hell, right? Hell in a biblical sense. Right, because people talk about dark energies, negative energies, dense energies, and they're never really nice, and they kind of make us sick. Right, sometimes they make us sick. The government was working on lower frequency vibrations to make people sick.
Yeah,
right,
and that's what our host, our guest Miguel was writing about in his book Meet the Hybrids. You guys check out the interview we did with them, and we're about to wrap up soon. So with that, it's really important to talk about this, because people are saying, I'm tired of this positivity culture. We need to get real. And then there are people saying there's enough corruption here. We need the positivity. And so when we can come at this from a scientific, more, devic, neutral, natural world standpoint, I think we can decide, is this thing, whatever you're involved with, is it making things grow? Is it expanding you?
Right. It's a practical application of that, right? And I think let's do this, Kristen, if you're good with this, on the next show on Monday, because we were going to kind of lead this all into the idea of soul families and how soul groups and soul families are formed. And it's this vibrational frequency, this similar thing. So maybe Monday we can continue this and get right into the soul families and the whole idea of that. But I think you're right. It's how we apply all of this, whether we can understand all of it or not, we feel it intuitively. And this is something you do feel intuitively, vibrational frequencies. So how do you apply it in your life, right? And we'll talk more about this. We'll talk more about it Monday, because we can talk about soul groups and soul families and
how to identify what are the
right.
Oh, I can't wait. Hey, you guys, it's been really great spending this time with you all. I hope you subscribe to this channel so you can be notified. If you click the little bell button next to this red subscribe, you will be notified when we are live, so you can join us in the chat room, because we want to know what you're thinking about these topics. We are investigating the paranormal with Jack Roth and Chris Teresa, If you like this episode, click like, and we will see you in the next one. Have a great day, Jack.
You too, Krista.